Alex walked outside with his coffee still hot in his hand. His keys were ready. His mind was already halfway to work. But the parking space was empty. For a second, he thought someone had stolen it. He almost reached for his phone to call the police. Then he saw the paper near where his car used to sit. Repossessed. One missed payment was the first domino. And standing in that empty lot wasn't even the worst part. The car was gone. But the debt wasn't. For Alex, that car was never a luxury. It was how he got to work. It was how he bought groceries. It was how he got to the doctor, handled emergencies, and kept his life moving. When the car disappeared, his whole week collapsed with it. No car meant no easy way to earn. No easy way to earn meant the next payment would be even harder to make. A car being taken doesn't just remove a vehicle from your life. It removes your options. It shrinks your whole world down to whatever you can reach on foot. None of this started with recklessness. It started with one bad month. His hours got cut at work. Rent went up the same week. A medical bill showed up that he never planned for. He looked at his car payment and thought, I'll catch up next paycheck. Almost everyone has thought that at some point. Then the late fee appeared. Then the next payment came due before he'd recovered from the last one. He started doing the quiet math everyone does when money runs short. Rent or the car? Groceries or the car? The electric bill or the car? The car keeps losing that math because you can skip it today and still wake up with it in the driveway. At least that's what it feels like. Then the phone started ringing. Numbers he didn't recognize. He knew exactly who it was. And he let it ring because he didn't have an answer, and answering felt worse than hiding. But Alex didn't understand something important. He thought being late meant he still had time. He figured there would be warnings, letters, a long runway before anything serious happened to him. In many states, though, once a loan is in default, the lender may have the right to take the car without telling you first and without ever going to court. What actually counts as default is written into the contract most people sign without reading. Missing a payment is a common example of it. Alex thought he was just a little behind. The lender saw something with a name. Default. Those two things feel very different, depending on which side of the phone you're standing on. He never even saw it happen. Maybe it came in the middle of the night. Maybe it was early morning while he was still asleep. A truck pulled up, hooked his car, and drove off with it. He didn't get to clear out the glove box. He didn't get to grab the jacket in the back seat, or the phone charger, or the folder of paperwork in the console. He didn't get to explain that he was trying, that he had a plan, that by next Friday, he'd have had something to offer. The car was simply gone. And a tow truck doesn't wait around to hear your reasons. Here's the part almost nobody expects. Most people believe that losing the car ends the loan. It feels like it should. They took the thing, so the debt should go with it. But that's not how it works. After a repossession, the lender usually sells the car, often at an auction, and auctions rarely bring in what you'd hope. A car that's been repossessed and rushed to a sale doesn't sell for retail. It sells for whatever a dealer in a parking lot is willing to bid on a Tuesday. This is the part that makes people feel trapped even after the car is already gone. So imagine Alex still owed $18,000 on that car. Imagine it sold at auction for $12,000. That gap doesn't just vanish. The difference between what he owed and what the car brought in has a name. It's called a deficiency balance, and it can still be his to pay. Alex lost the car and then found out he was still paying for the empty space it left behind. And the deficiency is only the beginning of it. A repossession tends to drag a whole line of extra costs behind it, most of which people never see coming. There can be late fees stacked on top of late fees. There can be towing charges. There can be storage fees for every single day the car sits on a lot. There can be the cost of the repossession itself and fees tied to cleaning, preparing, and selling the vehicle. All of that can get added on top of what he already owed. Then come the costs that never show up on any statement at all. The ride shares to work, the rides he had to ask friends for, until he stopped wanting to ask. The shifts he missed because he simply had no way to get there. One missed payment didn't stay one missed payment. It became a chain, and every link pulled the next one tighter. The mornings were the hardest part. Alex would wake up out of habit, reach for keys that no longer meant anything, and remember all over again. He learned the bus schedule he'd never needed to know. He started leaving the house an hour earlier for a shift that used to be a 10-minute drive. Small things he'd never thought twice about turned into decisions. A grocery run became a plan. Picking up his kid became a favor he had to ask someone for. Losing the car was one thing. Losing the 100 quiet things the car did for him every day was another. And that debt doesn't just sit there quietly. If it goes unpaid, the lender can hand it to a debt collector, or in some cases, take it to court. That's how a car you can no longer drive can eventually turn into a judgment, and how a judgment can reach into a paycheck or a bank account. The car is long gone by then. The consequences aren't. Now, some people think there's a cleaner way out of all this. They think that if they just hand the car back themselves, they can walk away even, return the keys, close the book, move on. But a voluntary repossession is not the same thing as canceling the loan. The car still gets sold. If it sells for less than what's owed, there can still be a deficiency balance waiting, and it can still land on a credit report, where it can sit for years and quietly make the next loan, the next apartment, and the next car harder to get. Handing the keys over on your own terms might save some of the fees, and it might look a little better to a lender down the road, but no one should mistake it for a reset button. It isn't one. It's worth understanding exactly what it does and doesn't erase before choosing it. So, why do so many people wait until the car is already gone? It usually isn't laziness. It's shame. Alex avoided the lender's calls because he didn't have a good answer, and saying the words, "I don't have it," out loud felt like admitting he had failed. He told himself the silence was buying him time, that if he just didn't pick up, the whole problem might somehow slow down. But silence doesn't slow anything down. It only removes him from the one conversation that might have actually changed how this ended. The hardest part of this whole thing isn't the missed payment. It's the shame that makes people go quiet at the exact moment they most need to speak up. None of this is here to tell anyone what to do in their own situation. But there are a few things worth understanding before a bad month ever turns into an empty parking space. Reaching out to the lender early, before the car is taken, usually gives you the most room to work with. It's worth asking what options might exist. Some lenders will talk about a payment plan, a short deferment, a hardship option, or a refinance. Some won't, but you don't find out unless you ask. And whatever someone tells you over the phone, get the agreement in writing before you count on it. Because a promise you can't prove is barely a promise at all. Read the actual loan contract, because that's where your real definition of default lives. The rules vary by state, by lender, and by contract, so what's true for one person may not be true for the next. Keep records of every call and every letter. If a repossession starts to feel likely, take your personal things out of the car while you still can. Don't let the mail pile up unopened. And whatever you do, don't assume that the car being gone means the loan is gone along with it. Alex thought the missed payment was the whole problem. That was the thing he'd been afraid of, the number he couldn't cover that month. But the missed payment was only the door. What waited on the other side of it was so much bigger than the door itself. The car could vanish from that parking space overnight, and the debt could keep standing there long after the car was gone. That's the part nobody warns you about until you're the one living it. Repossession doesn't just take a car. It can take the way someone gets to work, the way they earn a living, and the quiet belief that one bad month can still be repaired. So if you ever feel yourself starting to go quiet, starting to let the phone ring, remember Alex standing in that empty parking space. The worst part was never the space where the car used to be. It was everything that kept coming after it was gone.